What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the 615. It's your host, Lee Hilson. Today, you see, we're talking the Titans loss to the New York Giants. And of course, our guest is sports director for Fox 17 in Nashville, Jill Jelnick, which this has been a big thing in the works. And we'll be back with Jill right after this. And of course, if you're listening to the Spotify version, yes, it will be right after this and a word from our sponsor.
Tennessee Titans season's over. Let's call it what it is.
Running the ball now.
Covered by Lowe, loses the ball. It's Titans ball. And to Hilliard, he's got room. 30, 20, 10, 5, it's zone.
Go win the Super Bowl for this entire season.
Take a deep breath. Okay, have some fun. These boys and these things. You're gonna make mistakes. Every one of you is gonna make a mistake. Go figure out a way to make it right.
Wherever you listen throughout the world, it's football time in Tennessee.
What's up, buddy? We are back, and let's take care of some housekeeping. Subscribe to the show, turn on the notification bell so you know when we go live, and of course, let's go ahead and bring our guest in here, Jill Jelnick from Fox 17. Jill, welcome in.
Thanks for having me, Lee. Appreciate it. Hope you don't mind I'm hanging out outside. It's not always that we get such beautiful weather, and usually I'm running around either on a football field or inside in the studio, so it's nice to
Have
kind
a
of
day
enjoy
off.
the weather. Yes, that too.
And so I do want to kind of break some breaking news. Former Vol defensive end and current Philadelphia Eagle Derek Barnett
Oh
is
yeah.
out for the season.
Oh,
For his ACL against the Detroit Lions, and that was broke
that's horrible news.
by Adam Scheffner and Ian Rappaport.
I remember seeing him play for the Vols. I was in Chattanooga at the time. He was with the Butch Jones, if I believe, part of that era.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then of
I loved
course,
watching him play. It's unfortunate to hear.
and of course, the second story: Scott Frost out after 3 games in his 5th season.
Yeah, I hated to hear that news yesterday. It just in the college football world, it seems like all head coaches are on a short leash, and that's the case with Coach Frost. But I have no doubt he'll end up somewhere. Hopefully, somewhere good. One school will be happy to pick him up.
And then, of course, let's head to the comments real quick. We've already got somebody in here, and it is Titan Pratt. Of course, he's a regular here. on the show. But of course, yesterday, hard fought game by both sides.
Yeah, I think the Titans Giants game went with the trend that was started with the games earlier in the day for week one of the NFL, which the trend became exciting, down to the wire, unpredictable games. I was watching a couple of those noon kickoff games. Gosh, it seemed like everybody was down to the wire. You had the Saints and what was that? The Saints and
Atlanta.
Falcons. That was exciting, interesting to see Marcus Mariota with the Falcons there, and then Colts coming back to force an exciting game there. Jacksonville, Commanders. Every single game leading up to the Giants Titans game seemed to me unpredictable, and I remember thinking, gosh, that's great and all, but now I hope for a boring blowout for the Titans. And that was not the case yesterday. And credit to the New York Giants. They looked really good, specifically in the second half, and head coach Mike Vrabel and Tannehill and Derrick Henry gave the Giants a lot of credit. They were the better team in the second half, and that's really hard to believe, because if you look at these two rosters, I think it's easy to tell that Titans have the more talented roster, the more experienced veterans.
Yes.
And so it was disappointing. It was disappointing to see that the Titans game plan against the Giants, they weren't able to follow through.
And the big question is, was the loss a big part of Harold Landry being out?
I'm going to say no. I was actually very impressed with how the defensive line, specifically that first half, kind of rose to the occasion. They had 5 sacks, and I believe all 5 of them came in that first half. You saw the second half is where we saw a lot of defensive breakdowns, and that's where Saquon Barkley just started to heat up. He woke up, was finished warming up, whatever you want to call it. But Saquon Barkley, the second half, looked like what we are used to seeing Derrick Henry look like the second half, where he just got better with time. And on the other side of the ball, the Titans looked more tired in the second half. They could not stop the run game. Barkley went on to have his first 150-plus yard game since 2018. Credit to him. But that was the first key for the Titans. Talked about it all week long. Contain the run, stop the run. That was always going to be one of their keys for the game. And when you don't do that, you can't win ball games. So I don't think it was a huge thing, a huge error, or a hole because of the Harold Landry injury. I thought we saw Bud Dupree look really good. He had the most snaps on that line. Jeffrey Simmons had 2 sacks. Rashad Weaver stepped in nicely. Also 2 sacks, I believe, 2 of the 5. And you know what? For the most part, the offensive line did pretty well too. I felt like Ryan Tannehill had time. We didn't see a ton of QB pressures. He had time to go through his progressions for what seemed like all 4 quarters. But the offense stalled that second half. So
they did big time.
Yeah, I think it seems so easy for us to point at maybe 1 or 2 big things, right? The missed field goal being one of them. But let's be honest, there were so many things that led up to that missed field goal. Not the ability not to stop the run, the offense stalling. Derrick Henry, having a little bit of a hard time to getting going, and you can attribute that to play calling or whatever you want to attribute that to. But there were a lot of factors, and so I don't think it's it doesn't. I hesitate saying, oh, it's just this one thing that led to the stunner. It was a lot of things that didn't go well yesterday.
And of course, I do actually have a report from Corey Curtis. Both Joe Jones and Trenton Cannon were both signed to the 53-man roster.
Today?
Yes. This just came out within the last few minutes by Corey Curtis.
Oh, I just got it. 301. Let's see. Signed to the active roster. Running back Trenton Cannon and linebacker Joe Jones. Yep. 301. There you go. Better tweet this out.
And, of course, I came across some crazy stats. Saquon Barkley, as you said, had a huge game. Of course, we saw it. And let me find it because there was, I think it was Wes Wisely, the contributor for Broadway Sports Media.
Yeah, it was his first 150-plus yard game since 2018. So Saquon Barkley, he wasn't a secret his rookie year, but then he never fully got back to himself. And I think now we're starting to see Barkley get back to the running back that
The original
we saw
form.
him. Yeah, we first saw him break out as.
And so, of course, here's some huge stats: 18 carries and 6 receptions, combined for 194 yards and a touchdown
Yeah,
for Saquon.
164 on the ground, and then was able to have some good hands too. And that's also what we've seen
Vital.
sometimes from. Yeah, and we've seen that from Derrick Henry. He's caught a couple short passes. He had an opportunity on, I think, third down yesterday.
In the
to
red
catch a
zone,
pass.
yeah.
And yeah, but you know what? I think even if he caught that, he was going to be
Pushed out.
Yeah. So, but yeah, credit to Barkley. I think the question is, why was it so much? Why was he able to have more success that second half? Was it because of the tiredness? Was it because he was able to find more holes? Was it more breakdowns? But for the most part, I thought that the defensive line did not look like they had a huge, massive drop off without Harold Landry. There's no question that Harold Landry, their sack leader for the last 3 years, would have made a difference. Of course he would have, but those were 50 yards in a game means there's much more going on, and especially if the majority of that came in the second half.
And 22% of his carries went for 10 yards or more and had a 6.8 yards per attempt after contact. And he hadn't had a 50-plus yard run in 3 years.
Yeah, that's what I said, 2018.
And Barkley hit 21.1 miles per hour on a run yesterday. This is per Next Gen Stats. That's the second fastest of any player in NFL Week 1. And that's his fastest since 2019.
Yeah, talented player. And that's the thing. The Titans knew that. They talked about it all week long. Vrabel talked about how Barkley, they had faced him before, but coming off of his injuries and the time and Barkley's starting to get back to speed, there was no telling exactly what kind of player they were going to get yesterday. And obviously, and they expected the best from him. This was not any sort of underestimation on the Titans' part. They knew that was a key to the game. If they didn't stop the run, the Giants were going to hang around, and that's exactly what they did.
And another surprising stat, 39% of Barkley's touches either resulted in a touchdown or a first down.
Yeah, I had that 2-point conversion too.
And that's going to actually lead us right into the next big thing for the show. Talking offensively and defensive performers for both sides. Start off Tennessee. Ryan Tannehill, 20 of 33, 266 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns. But the one person that really shocked me yesterday, Kyle Phillips. 6 catches, 66 yards, also had a huge punt return.
Yeah, he also had a muff punt too. That unfortunately caused a momentum shift in that game. Luckily, the Titans defense and safety Amani Hooker bailed them out on that one. But no, I think Kyle Phillips had a great game for a debut. And when head coach Mike Vrabel was asked about Phillips, he gave a Mike Vrabel answer and said we expected everything that he did today from him. There was nothing that really surprised Coach Vrabel, and I think that was his way of saying, yeah, this is, despite him being a rookie, we expected that from him. Not going to be surprised. He has something special there with that punt return. But I think that muffed punt was a great maybe lesson for him as well. One of those learn it now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, learn it as early as you can, and then never make that mistake again.
And of course, yes, rookies are going to have rookie mistakes.
Right, but that doesn't mean that you can keep them in the game, and that doesn't mean that they
Yeah,
can earn the spot next week. You can only get so many of those rookie mistakes before coach says next man up.
exactly.
They have always spoke very highly of Kyle Phillips. He had a great training camp. So him getting the start and him playing as well as he did yesterday, despite the muff punt, is nothing surprising.
And so defensively, the players that really showed up in my mind, Big Jeff,
Yeah, yeah.
and then a guy you mentioned in Rashad Weaver in replace of Harold Landry,
Hmm.
Amani Hooker with the lone interception, and then of course Bud Dupree had a sack in the game.
Yeah, Bud Dupree played the most snaps out of that line, and the most snaps I believe he's played in a game since being with the Titans. More snaps yesterday than he did all season last year. So that's a really good sign for Bud Dupree. Jeff Simmons looked like Jeff Simmons. It was fantastic. And Rashad Weaver seemed to kind of seamlessly fit into that role that Landry left open. And so I think, again, you look at that defense, it was a tale of two halves yesterday, completely tale of two
It
halves. The
was.
Titans team in that first half that led 13-0 at halftime was not the same team that came out in that second half. So again, the questions, what do you attribute that to? What changed? What was the difference? I have to ask all of them individually, but how much how tired were they? And why exactly wasn't that offense clicking? Ryan Tannehill, when he spoke after the game yesterday, obviously said, they need to do better. They also got to convert in the red zone. They had too many missed opportunities. That's what he said. Too many missed opportunities, especially in the red zone. I also believe they were only 3 of 11 on third down, and you can't do that. And I think maybe fans, I'm not going to speak for the Titans, but I think for fans, it probably was easy to guess, oh, it's just the New York Giants. Even if the Titans don't play well, they'll roll over them. This is a different Giants team. This is a first-year head coach, Brian Dable, who comes from a great pedigree, and made some gutsy calls. He made the gutsy call
The
to go for
2-point conversion.
2-point conversion to win the game.
And of course, you have to look at that defense coordinator, Wink Martindale, who spent
Wink
time in
Martindale,
Baltimore.
yeah. And I credit to the defense, the Giants defense, the second half.
Exactly.
They shut down Derrick Henry. They shut down the Titans offense. Offense couldn't get string anything together. And when you let a team hang around that long, and give them life and give them belief, and play for something bigger. Let's be honest. The Giants had more to play for yesterday than the Titans, right? A new regime, new first-year head coach, and the Giants hadn't won an opener in 6 years. So they were the clear underdog and had all the momentum on their side. Yeah.
A big stat. Going into this game, the series was tied at 6 between the Titans and Giants, dating back to the late 70s.
Say that again. The series between the two.
They were tied. It was tied at 6.
Yeah,
wins apiece.
Yeah.
So Giants now lead the series 7-6.
It's funny to think that, right? But when you think about, okay, that was also through the course of several decades, different Giants teams.
Yes,
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, you had the greats like Phil Simms.
Yeah.
In these matchups, but let's head to the Giants side of the ball offensively. You have to think about Daniel Jones, 17-21. He ranked top 5 in passer rating week 1. And then, of course, look at a guy like Saquon Barkley, 18 carries, 164 yards, and a touchdown. And, of course, the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I think credit to the Giants offense. Daniel Jones, considering the pressure the Titans put on him, especially that first half, for him to come away 17 of 21. And also, forget about the stats, came away with the win. And was able to lead that game-winning drive for them, with capped off by the 2-point conversion. So credit to Daniel Jones. We've talked about Barkley already, just how we should have expected that from him. We shouldn't be surprised. The Titans weren't surprised. They just couldn't contain him. And then Sterling Shepard, that was, talk about game-changing plays. I think the muffed punt, even though it didn't lead to points, that was a momentum shift because it seemed like the Titans could just start to roll after that. Even though they hadn't scored at that point, they were still up just 13-0. They weren't able to build on that lead. But when you talk about game-changing plays, I think that muff punt felt like a momentum changer. But then another one was that's, not 68-yard bomb. That was Saquon's run was 68. The
I think it was
60-plus yarder from Jones to Shepard and the blown coverage by Fulton, I believe.
Yeah.
That one hurt, obviously. It got the Giants not only back in the game with momentum back on their side and the Titans on their heels. That one hurt.
And one thing I've always learned is a dangerous team is a team that's playing from behind.
Yeah, just like an underdog. I agree with you on that.
They have nothing to lose.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, of course, let's head to the defensive side for the Giants. We have to talk about former Titan Adoree Jackson, who had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, you have it right there: 6 tackles, 2 assists. Again, I think the Giants' defense altogether did a very good job of slowing down the Titans, containing the Titans, not letting the Titans convert on third down. All of those missed opportunities for the Titans.
And of course, there's not one, not two, but 3 phases to the game. Let's head to the special team side. And for me, the Titans' top performer, you have to talk, when talking about punting, you have to talk Ryan Stonehouse.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, what an intriguing storyline that has been leading up to this opener and him making his debut. We have it right there, 6 punts, 300 yards, average of 57. That's, 3 inside the 20. That's really good.
For an opener.
For an opener. And you have to think, in order for Brett Kern to not make that 53-man roster, the guy has to be that good. So we've seen this from Stonehouse. We expected this from Stonehouse. He just dominated that training camp and really turned heads. Even Brett Kern gave him a lot of credit. Said, when I saw him first punt, I knew he was special. He was special. And so that's great that the Titans have someone so good at that position.
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about special teams as a whole, nothing, glaring or anything except for that muff punt from
Kyle Phillips.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Giants, their whole situation, 51.5-yard average for their punter. And 5 of those punts hit inside the 20.
Yeah.
And then another name to mention, former MTSU Blue Raider Richie James.
Yeah. Richie James. What did he finish with? Didn't he have several big catches too? Did he lead?
That's actually a good question.
I think he just had an overall good game for the Giants.
That is actually a good question. Where did he finish it?
I thought he was their leading receiver for a while. But maybe I'm thinking of a different James.
(21-20) loss. Richie James had 1 catch, 2 yards.
Okay, never mind.
That's rushing. Richie James was second, 5 catches, 59 yards.
Yeah, there you go.
With 11.8 yards per catch.
Yeah, he had some big plays and almost came up with a big one on third down, but just went through his hands at the last second. That would have been a crusher. But Giants ended up putting together another final drive, and capitalizing later in the game. I think, biggest takeaway, if this game had to happen, it's great that it happened week 1. If we've learned anything from the Tennessee Titans last season, it's that they are a team that plays better when they are behind, when they are underestimated, when they are the underdog, when no one expects them to win. That was their mantra last year, and they owned it and they thrived off of it, and they went all the way to the playoffs with it. So I think the Titans coming in as, the ones with the target on their back, that obviously didn't play out the way they wanted to. But if a game like that had to happen, glad it happened week 1.
And of course, as we're saying, it's devastating to lose like this. But at least it wasn't as bad as week 1 last year.
It was not as bad as the opener against the Cardinals last year. Yes. And, I think it's easy for us to look at the game and pick apart all the things that went wrong. We hardly even talked about, some of the positives. I think, again, the stepping up and filling the hole of Harold Landry, Rashad Weaver, the 5 sacks on the D-line. I think Treylon Burks, first-round draft pick, the couple catches, not bad for an opener. Still like to see Robert Woods. Still like to see more Austin Hooper. The snap count in terms of how everything was laid out with the snap count and stuff. Some questions there about how come Jeff Swaim got the most reps at the tight end position, and I think a lot more targets too than some of the receivers. But so some things that we're still learning and figuring out. These are new offensive weapons, but again, I think this is a very experienced Titans team, and they're gonna use this. They're gonna use this week 1 loss as motivation the rest of the season. We're going to be in week 18, and head coach Vrabel is going to be referring, or he probably won't refer to week 1, but I can see some of the players being like, hey, we don't look at it, look past anybody. Don't take anything for granted. Just remember week 1.
And of course, I am actually on shows, part of the press conference that it's like the very end of Vrabel talking about the defense. And is it showing up over here? Let me go ahead and go full screen on this. And yes, it is a tweet from you, actually.
Yeah, there you go, Fox 17.
And then here it is.
Defensively, we just couldn't stop the run. Number 1 key to the game, and that's why you lose.
And that right there said it all.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned right away. When you can't stop that run, not even just, Saquon Barkley, give him credit, he's a star, but Titans could not slow him down that second half. And when you can't contain that, again, you let a team back in, give them life, give them chance. And then on the other end, your offense is stalling. That is a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. And of course, I know this was quick, but Jill, thank you for taking time out of your day off to do this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lee. I appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again and be talking about a Titans win. How about that?
Hopefully. Well, and so everybody.
We also have a busy, I was just going to say, and I thought last week was busy for me. This week is actually going to be even crazier. So I do a 30-minute high school football show on Fridays, Football Frenzy Live. So Anybody listening, if you're a high school football fan, tune in to Football Frenzy Live on Fox 17 Fridays at 9:30. Last week we had 11 different games, highlights from 11 different games. So that was really fun. That's every Friday. And then Sunday nights, I have my sports overtime show, 30 minutes. Titans, of course, is about 10 minutes of the 30 minutes. And then I have college football, high school, soccer, Nashville SC. But then next Monday, for everybody listening, the Titans game, yes, it's on Monday Night Football, which is ESPN. However, Fox 17 has the rights to the broadcast. We won the local bid to the rights, so you can watch that game Titans and Bills in Buffalo on Fox 17. And leading up to that game at 6:15, I'll have a 30-minute Titans pregame special starting at 5:30. And it will be all Titans for 30 minutes leading up to that broadcast. So I have 3 30-minute shows in 4 days. And so I'm about to get ready for easily my biggest week of the football season until we get to playoffs. So,
which I'm hoping we make it.
yeah, you and me both.
And
it's that time of the year, football.
And of course, I'm going to throw your socials up. So any of my podcast people who want to get her on, reach out to her on Twitter and Instagram at Jill Jelnick.
Apparently, there's no other Jill Jelnick in the world. It's just me. I was able to grab both of those handles. It's just me.
Lucky. You're lucky. And of course, I said, Jill, thank you for taking time out of your day off to do this.
Yeah, no, thanks again for having me, Lee. And I'm going to take a break, do some cooking, then we're going to settle in for a fun Monday night football game.
Which is Broncos and Seahawks.
Russell Wilson returning to Seattle. It should be good. Should be fun.
Which, of course, my fantasy team ain't doing so hot.
Yeah, I got DK. I got DK on my team, so I'm ready for him to have a big game.
Which I am up by 34 points right now.
Nice. Very nice.
But all I have is the Broncos defense. The guy I'm playing against has. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign my L on this one.
You never know.
Well, everybody, that was Jill Jelnick. And again, thank you. And as I always say, stay classy and tighten up. Wrong thing.